Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will we will be covering the Bengals' heartbreaking loss to the Chargers as the Bengals fall to 4-7. We'll discuss the AFC North showdown between the Steelers and the Ravens. Steelers getting that victory despite not scoring a single touchdown in the game. We'll discuss the Chiefs finally losing this losing the season as the Buffalo Bills hand them their first loss of the season. We'll discuss Daniel Jones being benched for Tommy DeVito. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show, where I'll be giving you my reaction to CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers, match day 11, and preview for match day 12. If you have a question during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes this show successful, and we thrive on your energies and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share, please don't hesitate to drop in the chat. If you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Just use the super chat button at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your super chat gets read on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We really rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead, let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button, and let's keep the show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, there's always you can always have that possibility of just donating and leaving your questions through the gsmcpodcast.net. And yeah, we couldn't do what we do without your music support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. As you can tell, guys, I have a really bad cough, a really bad cold, so let's get through this stream together. You're gonna see me coughing a few times taking some water as well. But yes, the Bengals' heartbreaking loss to the Chargers, as they fall to 4-7 this season and are on the major danger of missing the playoffs. Now they are on the extreme of the outside looking in. There is the outside looking in that certain teams are in, but this is a different level of outside looking in. It's gonna take a minor miracle at this point for the Bengals to get into the postseason, and it's heartbreaking. The way that they lost this game. It's so heartbreaking the way they lost this game, in the fashion that they lost it, coming back in the way that they did, but it not being enough at the end of the day. It's absolutely devastating, devastating way to lose. Obviously, we know how great Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Trey Hendrickson, it's obvious how great that they've been playing, how they've been performing, even in these games that they're losing. But for some reason, they can't get it together. They can't get it together. In terms of turning those good performances, those good individual performances into victory, and there are weaknesses in this Bengals team. That a pass rush. If you look at that pass rush outside of Trey Hendrickson, they're pretty awful. They're bottom in the league. They're one of the bottom teams in this league when it comes to sacks. They're one of the bottom teams in this league when it comes to quarterback pressure. And their secondary is getting exposed because they have so much time to throw the ball, and the secondary itself is pretty pedestrian as well. So defensively, look, this is a Chargers offense that this season has been pretty stagnant, and they've been pretty stagnant this season. They've struggled to generate much offense this season. It's been they have a really good quarterback in Justin Herbert. But it's been mediocre. You see the games that they're winning. Last few games against Saints, Browns, and Titans, they were able to generate 27 points. But this was the Chargers team before that. Scored 15 points against the Cardinals. Scored 10 against the Chiefs. Scored 10 against the Steelers. Scored 22 against the Raiders. This is a Chargers offense that's not the most electric. They scored 26 against the Panthers. 23 against the Broncos. Last couple of games against the Browns, Saints, and Titans, they've started to get a higher level. But this is a Chargers offense that's not the most explosive. They don't have the best weapons out there. And you know what? In this game, that offense absolutely dominated. Justin Herbert, efficient, in terms of, 17 completions for 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. The run game, Justin Herbert did a good job extending the field, extending drives with his legs, picking up yards, 5 carries for 65 yards. J.K. Dobbins didn't have the strongest game, but he had 11 for 56, and he had that big one at the end that gave the Chargers the victory. Lad McConkey, that's the one I was surprised about. The rookie wide receiver for the Chargers, he had 6 receptions for 123 yards in this one, and he gave that Cincinnati Bengals team nightmares, especially in that first half. He is he's had a really good rookie campaign in terms of expectations. I believe this now puts him on 600 yards on the season, and there's not that much playmakers on this Chargers offense, and if he can develop into one, he could be it can make the Chargers dangerous team going forward right now with them being 7-3. Defensively, they've been great this season. Derwin James, I love the fact that he's playing football that matters. A lot of his career has been not playing football that matters, despite his dominance, and he's also suffered some injuries as well. Has lost a lot of time out with injuries. The level that he's playing at, he came down with actually the Hail Mary. He tipped it down. He punched that ball down to make sure there's no possibility for a ricochet or all that. But overall, he's had a really good year. He's part of a defense that's playing some really, really good football. You're a Los Angeles Chargers team. You're very, 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 very impressed because a Los Angeles Chargers fan, you're very, very impressed with this one because, there was a relative unknown with this Los Angeles Chargers before this game. Could they do it against better opposition? We had no idea. You look at the quarterbacks that they beat before this one. They beat Will Levis. There was a stat on this. I forgot where it was. They beat Will Levis. They beat Jameis Winston. They beat Spencer Rattler. They beat Bo Nix, rookie Bo Nix, Bryce Young, and Gardner Minshew. Their most impressive win was Bo Nix. Some of these players or multiple of these players are not NFL starting quarterbacks entering this season. Spencer Rattler, he's not an NFL starting quarterback, period. Jameis Winston came into the season as is the backup. Bryce Young, he got benched throughout the season. Gardner Minshew got benched throughout the season. So there was a relative unknown with the Los Angeles Chargers in terms of can that defense show up against a top quarterback, and can this Chargers offense maintain with the productivity that a top quarterback can bring. And so far this game, look, so far it's been so good that with this performance, with this result. And there was some things that concerned me with the Chargers, how they couldn't stop the bleeding in that third quarter, and that how Cincinnati were able to get back into this game so quickly, despite the fact that it was I believe at halftime it was 24-6. Despite the fact that it was 24-6, I thought the Bengals were able to get back into the game quickly. Now, turnovers have something to do with it. Obviously, as well, I believe the Bengals had the Chargers had a fumble that the Bengals were able to recover. But actually, I need to fact check that. I don't know if there was a turnover. I know there wasn't a turnover from the quarterback, but Bengals were able to get back into the game relatively quickly, and it shows that Bengals, they're still a good football team. They're still good football in them. It's just execution in key moments, and they were able to get themselves back into the game after a great third quarter. They're maintaining the level in the fourth. They get the touchdown to tie the game, and you're thinking, get a stop, and you know, you can win the game. Well, guess what? The Bengals defense, they got two stops, and they gave the Bengals offense two opportunities to win the game, or at least to take the lead. And in those two opportunities, they led to two misses by Evan McPherson, who's not who, by the way, since that one rookie year where he made all those late game clutch kicks that won them the game, that won them division against the Chiefs and I believe it was the week 17 of that year, and then he made multiple kicks to win games in the playoffs against the Tennessee Titans and also the Chiefs again. Since then, I think he struggled. He struggled since that rookie year. This season, he's 15 of 21. He's 71% percentage as a kicker. That's not a relatively good percentage of a kicker. This was a dude in his rookie year that went 28 for 23, and his kicking percentage has steadily gone down over the last 4 years. He started off at 84%, then he dropped to 82%, then he maintained that level 82.8%. He kept it around 83.9%, but now this season he's kicking 71.4%. Now obviously kickers are weird, and sometimes randomly they just go south, and it's almost more of a confidence thing rather than a skills thing with kickers. But that's two huge missed kicks. And then you saw what Jamar Chase said after the game, which I'm never a fan of. I think kickers' jobs are as hard as it is. The pressure, adding any sort of pressure with the comments he made, and which I think it was a little bit of a shot, saying, he makes the money to make those kicks, and it just didn't go through. I don't like that because kickers already have a hard job, and that's why I was really negative on Deebo Samuel whenever he had the incident with Jake Moody last week against the Buccaneers when Moody missed those kicks. These sort of comments just make it harder for the kickers, and are completely and utterly unnecessary. Just focus on what you did or didn't do and move on. He had a few opportunities that he could have, gotten the Bengals in a position where they didn't even need to kick the ball to get the win, that they could have extended the drive. It's a team loss, and, now you're looking at it, you have 7 losses. I don't know, like, this Bengals team, I still believe that they have the quality to be a playoff contender. I definitely do. But they just can't get on the right side of these late games. And there's, in certain games, whenever you're a team that is already on that's already been struggling this season, are kind of need to go on a run and are in a point where you need to start racking up wins, you want to get off to smooth starts in these games. These games the Bengals are playing, they're getting down early. They're not taking teams out when they could take teams out. They're keeping teams in the game. And when you do that, and you're in a late game battle for many games this season, it just it's almost a matter of luck sometimes. This 4-7 could easily be a 7-4. Just one or two things are not going the way. But this Bengals team is more than good enough to play so well within the earlier parts of this game that they don't even need it to come down to the wire in some of the games that they've lost this season. That's my issue. But again, the Chargers, I think they're locked in there now. I think they've been really, really good this season. think they play some good defense. They have an opportunistic offense, and they're head coached. They're a very, very brilliantly coached team with Jim Harbaugh in there. As far as Cincinnati, I don't know what to tell you here. You're 4-7. You're basically in a position you need to win out for the rest of the season. We just gotta wait and see. The moment where they're finally officially eliminated, and it doesn't get much easier for them. Next week they play the Steelers. Then, then you do have some chance to really pile up wins against the Cowboys, Titans, Browns, and Broncos, who've been okay this season. But look, winning these last 6 games are not impossible. Now, is that enough to get you in? I think it will be, especially if you can beat Denver in that Week 17 game. That's a tiebreaker over a team that you're more likely than not going to be battling with in that 7th seed. So if you're a Bengals, a Bengals fan and you're looking at some sort of pathway to make the postseason, it starts from this Sunday. I mean, if you're going to go on a run, it starts now. Any loss from here on is the nail in the coffin for their season. So let's see what they can produce against the Pittsburgh Steelers. One last chance, I guess, in a team that seems like they keep getting a new life every week, even though really these games have been must-wins for last couple of weeks now. And they failed over and over and over again. But yeah, short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss the Steelers defeating the Ravens.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, I discussed the Bengals' heartbreaking loss to the Chargers as they fall to 4-7. Move on. It's time to move on to discuss the AFC North battle coming down to the wire as the Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Baltimore Ravens this season. And yeah, what a game, I thought it was a very, very interesting game. A game that between two gritty football teams battling, for division supremacy. They've separated themselves from the pack, from the rest of the division with a Bengals not being able to get on the right side of these one score games, and we know Cleveland and the mess that they are. But yeah, this was an opportunity for both of these teams to announce themselves as the favorite to win the division, and it was the Pittsburgh Steelers that did it, because they came into this season as with a better record. They had played an extra game. They entered 7-2 while the Ravens entered 7-3. So they came into this game with a better record, and winning this game would have gave them a decent lead now over the Baltimore Ravens, and that's what they done. That's what they did, and they did it without scoring a single offensive touchdown. And in today's era, in the 2024 time of the National Football League, winning a game when you don't score a single touchdown is dang near impossible. And it's a testament to the Pittsburgh Steelers coaching staff, to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, to the Pittsburgh Steelers special teams, which obviously came up big again. 6 of 6 field goals from Chris Boswell, which, by the way, you want to go back to time in history. This is not something that Mike Tomlin and Chris Boswell is new to. The Pittsburgh Steelers actually won a playoff game. They won a playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs, in which Chris Boswell won 6 of 6 from in terms of his field goal percentage. He went 6 of 6, and they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in that one with not a single offensive touchdown. I believe the score was also 18 to I think it was 18-15 as well. No, I'd have to pull up that score. That was probably for me 2016 or something like that. 18. It was 18-16. It was the 2017. It was the 2017 divisional round. 18-16. Chris Boswell had 6 field goals there, and it just watching that game, immediately when Chris Boswell hit the 6th field goal to make it 18 points, I immediately thought of that. If people forgot, actually, that's the infamous Facebook Live moment, where after that game is when Antonio Brown went on Facebook Live and exposed what Mike Tomlin was saying in regards to the Patriots. In that post game, hype up entering the divisional round. But yeah, unbelievable result for Pittsburgh. This is a Pittsburgh Steelers team that entered this season not having the expectations of 8-2, being first in division this late into the season, playing some good football, being able to push the ball down the field, with having a really great team. We didn't expect much from the Steelers team. We thought this was a team that was in, not knowing if they were going halfway in, halfway out with the quarterback situation. Most of the talk was in regards to that quarterback situation, and we didn't really expect from this team, to be as good as what they are. But look, their old school football team, the way that they play defense, the way that they, they all facets of the game, Pittsburgh Steelers have all had a great defense, even in their last couple of years being really poor. But offensively, they've struggled because quarterback play, most importantly. But not just quarterback play, is the fact that they've never had a quarterback that can push the ball down the field since Big Ben Roethlisberger when he was in his prime. And that's going a pretty while back, because the last couple of years was not the greatest showing for Big Ben Roethlisberger. Especially since of his elbow, with all the things that he's faced with that elbow. And now having Russell Wilson in, a quarterback that can push down the field, you're suddenly seeing a Pittsburgh Steelers, and yes, I know they only scored 16 points this game, or 18 points this game. But I'm just talking about, throughout the season with Russell Wilson. You're seeing a team, now that he can push the ball down the field, you see the Steelers facing a little bit lighter boxes. And it's led, in my opinion, to a resurgence of Najee Harris, who I've not been a biggest fan of. But he's had a solid this season, averaging about 4 yards a carry. Has already 708 yards on the season. Is on the verge of being a 1,000-yard rusher. I believe. I don't know how many times he's accomplished that in his career as a Steeler. I wouldn't guess many. I'd have to go check that. Actually, no, he did have a few. He's had 1,000-yard season actually his last 3 seasons. But overall, so I was completely wrong about that. But overall, with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, they have a good running back tandem there. And I think those two players complement each other really well. I think George Pickens, his greatest ability is to make those catches, those crazy contested catches, that seemed impossible. And Russell Wilson, in the way he pushed the ball down the field and the way that he trusts his receivers to make plays, he's given George Pickens more of an opportunity to make those 50-50 plays. And yeah, it's made the Steelers the team that they are now. And their grittiness and the way that they were able to overcome not scoring a touchdown does not surprise me. As far as Baltimore Ravens, look, Lamar has played some of his worst career games in the NFL against these Pittsburgh Steelers. He is 1-4 as a starter. Actually, their last 9 games Steelers have played the Ravens, they're 9-1. The Steelers are 9-1. Now you take that with context. There's been a lot of games that Lamar and a lot of the Ravens starters have not played because some of these matchups have came in meaningless Week 18 games where it was decided already, where Baltimore were going to be in the playoffs and they didn't really need that final game. They were resting players for that final game. But in this season so far, but in the 5 games that Lamar has played for the against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he has not performed. He is 1-4 against them, and is it a combination of the fact that the Steelers can play? They have this talent in the secondary to play man on man, and they can spy him and they can contain him with the likes of T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward and those boys up front, and the fact that they can spy, they can take a player out of coverage and spy on him because they trust their corners and safeties to go one-on-one. There's the combination of that, and it's just Steelers. They're such a well-oiled machine. They're such an amazingly disciplined team led by the coaching and the leadership of Mike Tomlin. They're not gonna beat themselves, the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're gonna beat them, you're gonna have to beat them. They're not gonna beat themselves. And what's happened is Lamar Jackson has not only has he not been able to beat them, but he's beat himself too as well. Especially the one last season, he threw a horrible interception that brought Steelers back into the game. This season, this game so far, 16 of 33, 207, a touchdown, an interception. It just wasn't a great showing, and your Ravens team, that's a bad loss. To go down now 1.5 games behind the Steelers. This is a Ravens team that still has the Chargers, Eagles. They play the Steelers again, and then the Texans on Christmas, which maybe we could see a better Texans team from what we've seen so far. It puts Ravens in a tricky position to come back in that AFC North because Pittsburgh are high-flying. They're playing good football. They have that 1.5 game leap. And if you compare the Steelers, actually the Steelers have a pretty difficult schedule as well. Actually, they play the Browns this week, which should be a victory. But then they have Cincinnati. They have the Browns again, and then they have the Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals. So that's 5 high competitive games. I still think Cincinnati is a very competitive game despite their record. So we'll learn a lot more about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think we'll, with the Baltimore Ravens, I don't think they're as good as a football team as last season. I think offensive line, they struggle to protect for Lamar as they did in the past, and we know the woes that they have in the secondary. I'm interested to see if Baltimore are able to get back to that AFC Championship this season. I'm having my doubts. I am having my doubts. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss the Chiefs-Buffalo Bills game.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed the AFC North battle coming down to the wire with the Steelers getting that victory over the Ravens. We move on to discuss the Chiefs. They finally lose a football game this season. They've been surviving. They've been maintaining, but they finally lose this season, and it comes ironically to a Buffalo team that they own when it comes to postseason. I think in terms of the regular season now, Buffalo Bills have had some relative success over them. I believe the last 3 times they played in the regular season, the Bills have came on top. Maybe the last 4 times, honestly. It's been a while now since the Chiefs defeated Buffalo Bills in the regular season. It's been the Bills that have gotten more favorable matchups. But in the postseason, it's always been Kansas City no matter what. Now, that's a different story and a conversation to have for later on in the segment, honestly. I'll probably get to it. I know I will. But to start off, though, I will want to congratulate the Bills on doing what the first 9 teams that went up against the Kansas City Chiefs can do. And that's win against them. And they played some good football. Buffalo Bills did good complementary football. And I thought throughout this game, now Buffalo Bills, they were never down in this game. They came out with the lead, and there was a period where they were only up 2 points, and I think it was 16-14 at the halftime. But they were never down in this one, and I thought when Kansas City Chiefs got that touchdown later on in the early on in the fourth quarter, where Mahomes was able to find who was it? Noah Gray into the back of the end zone for his second touchdown. I thought, well, yep, Kansas City, they're doing it again. They're keeping themselves into this game, close enough into this game where they can make, where they can be in a puncher's position in the later part of this game, and then they'll deliver the knockout below. That's what they've done all this season. That's what they've done for a very long time. Now that's what the Kansas City Chiefs are. But Josh Allen said, no, not in my house, not today. And to credit Sean McDermott, who has been under a little bit of pressure before this season, now to say they're under pressure is ridiculous, because 9-2 and they're playing great football, and he's a great head coach as well. He came with the decision 4th and 2 late in the game. decides to go for it. You're around, you're in clear field goal range for Tyler Bass. You're around the 20-yard line or so, 25-yard line or so. And Josh Allen, he drops back to pass. And I don't think it was a designed run. I don't know if there was... in the commentary, they tried to make it seem that way. It was not a designed run. He dropped down. He looked for a second, didn't see someone open, and decided to get out of there quickly. And Josh Allen, for his height, to be as fast, and the acceleration and how quick, and on top of that, how fast he is for a player that is his height. I believe Josh Allen is listed 6'5", maybe? Josh Allen is a freak of a man. Yes, he is 6'5". And to move as fast as he does, he truly is one of the most athletic quarterbacks, or the most athletic quarterback in the league. When you put in all the factors together, the arm strength, the size, the strengths, the height, it's a unique combination of physical characteristics that make him the quarterback he is. And yeah, us going back to that decision, they're in a 4th and 2, at around in the 27th yard line or so. Josh Allen picks it up. Not only does he pick up that first down, but with that athleticism that I've been talking about, he's able to drag 2 Chiefs defenders into the end zone, and it's a 2-possession game now with a little less than 2:20 to play. And yeah, that's essentially ball game there. Yeah, Chiefs will get the ball back, but they're gonna need to score extremely quickly and get an onside kick. That was the moment that ended the game. Now, obviously, there was an interception that came later on 4th and 13, where they pushed the ball down the field looking for something, but Bernard got the interception. It handed Kansas City their first loss of the season, and look, it was coming for Kansas City. They were surviving in the games. They won last week's game on a blocked field goal. So obviously with Kansas City, you're gonna lose some games, and going up against an 8-2 Buffalo team at the road, that could be a difficult game to lose. And as far as Buffalo, really good win for them, but for them it's the same story. It's hard at least in my perspective, to look at this game and to come out that much higher on Buffalo, because we know the stranger this the hold that this Chiefs team has over them, the preseason, almost a spell that they have over them, and in the postseason. And for me to get excited about a meaningless game in the regular season, I really can't. I have to be honest, because I know when playoff time comes, it's gonna be a much different game, much different story for Kansas City. This is a team that's won 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls. These little regular season games here and there are not gonna leave them too deflated. I think the Chiefs could use a little bit of a wake up call, because they have been surviving and they need to clean it up, because you can't survive your way into the Super Bowl. But as far as Buffalo, though, I said what I said about them missing about their playoff production against Kansas City, but I can't totally ignore the fact that this is a huge win. They put themselves now with this win. They put themselves a game behind Kansas City with a tiebreaker. So essentially, they only kind of need to, if they can have the same record as the Chiefs, if they can get some help, if Chiefs can drop some games, and Bills can win one more game than the Chiefs do throughout the duration of the season, the Bills will be the number 1 seed. Now the Chiefs have a relatively easy schedule. They play the Raiders, Panthers, Browns, Broncos, Texans. I don't know what we'll expect from the Texans then. I think Texans have been pretty poor this season. Chiefs have a pretty easy record, yes, but you never know what happens. Now Buffalo, they do have this bye week coming up, then they do take on the 49ers, who are probably going to be playing in a must-win game. Then they have the Rams, the Lions, but then it gets a little bit easier with the Patriots, Jets and Patriots, which are all, crazy It's crazy to me. I hate that how 3 division games happen at the 3 last games of the season. That's just ridiculous to me. But yeah, the Bills do have the difficulty of opponents taking on the Niners, Rams, Lions. But yeah, I think that's a number 1 seed that I think will come down to the wire solely because of this game and the tiebreaker implications of winning this game for Buffalo. You know, but short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Daniel Jones being benched for Tommy DeVito.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed the Chiefs losing to the Buffalo Bills, which is their first loss of this season. We move on to discuss Daniel Jones being benched for Tommy DeVito. What took the Giants so long is the real question here. I mean, it's been clear for a little bit now that Daniel Jones is not the answer. And I do have to come clean. Sorry, the cough again. I do have to come clean in the fact that I did want the Giants to give Daniel Jones that opportunity entering the season. Because for some reason, part of me keeps hanging on to that lone playoff win that Daniel Jones had in his career. Came in Brian Daboll's first season as head coach. He won Coach of the Year, led them to the playoffs, and they went up against a Minnesota Vikings team that was, pretty overrated. I believe they had 13-4 record that season, but it was clear they were an overrated 13-4, and Daniel Jones went in there and he dog walked them. I mean, I thought he had a brilliant game, and I didn't know many rookies that had not rookie, he wasn't a rookie then actually, but many first year NFL, first year playoff quarterbacks that performed better than he did on that day. Like playing his first playoff game in his career, what he was able to do, I was highly, highly, highly impressed in that wild card round. They won 31-24. They did. Daniel Jones won 24 of 35 for 301 yards and had 2 touchdowns. He also had 17 carries for 78 yards. He was brilliant in that game. He was absolutely brilliant. He picked apart their zone. He was making key plays on third down. he was extending drives with his legs. He was extending plays with his legs. He was a threat and read option, and he played an absolutely brilliant playoff game. And the offense played at an extremely high level. The Giants' offense did, but and there's a but there. But it's gone all wrong since that playoff game. The performance levels, not only of him, but that Giants offense since then has gone horrible. I believe he has a 3-14 record since then, or something like that. That was the stat I believed. His record as a starter in the regular season is 22-44-1, and yeah, and the stats are mediocre. He's played in 70 games, 70 total games that he's played for the Giants, and he's 64% completion percentage, 14,582 yards, 70 touchdowns, 40 interceptions, quarterback rating of 84.3. Pretty pedestrian numbers, and he's just not good enough. He doesn't lead his receivers. He's inaccurate downfield. He'll make a play here and there with his legs, and sometimes, once in a while, he does show the capability that he has that arm and he can fire in the hole with velocity and all that. And he shows his abilities in certain moments, but more likely than not, in terms of he's consistently missing his receivers. I don't even think it's read the defense issues. I think he does a relatively good job of going through his progressions and, throwing it in the right place, throwing the ball at the right place. Yeah, he does turn the ball over sometimes, which will happen. He does have 47 interceptions. By the way, 70 touchdowns to 47 interceptions is not the worst ratio in the world. Obviously, it could be much better, but it's not the worst. But as I was saying, I don't think the thing is him, just not being able to read the defense properly and just being out of it at this level. It's just the God honest truth that he's just not accurate enough. That he misses open guys too much. That he has opportunities that he can lead players and turn it into big plays, and they're having to, stop short or almost reach out behind them to secure the catch because of how inaccurate the pass is. And there's many instances of that, and the problem also with Daniel Jones is when things go down early in ball games, in terms of a sack early or a incompletion early or a turnover early, it just gets even worse from there, and it seems like the pressure starts getting to him, and yeah, obviously the the New York media can swallow you up and make it difficult. I saw Geno Smith talk about that a little earlier today. He was on a podcast actually with Sherman talking about the New York. He brought up the New York Jets media and all that, and the New York media can be difficult. Obviously, yes, but come on, I don't understand how a quarterback can play so extremely well in his first career playoff game the way that he did. I don't know how he wasn't able to use that momentum from getting that victory, from having that performance to turn it into a good run as a starting quarterback for the New York Giants. I didn't understand how he wasn't able to do that. I'm kind of shocked the way he's performed since then. I didn't expect it, and I believe in Brian Daboll. I think what he did that rookie year was absolutely excellent. And I think he does deserve an opportunity to have another franchise quarterback, yes. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know who makes the decisions, but you have to think that he signed off on giving Daniel Jones that extra year. Maybe there was that quarterback that, that they would have wanted if they were available, yes. in the draft. But overall, I have to believe if Brian Daboll didn't believe in Daniel Jones, he would have moved on from Daniel Jones. I'm assuming Brian Daboll wanted to give him this one last opportunity, and if that's the case, that could be some serious leverage for the Giants ownership group to fire Brian Daboll. I don't think it'll happen. I honestly don't think it'll be a wrong decision because of what Brian Daboll proved that first season as a head coach. But overall, it's a deserved benching, and yeah, he honestly shouldn't touch the field ever again as a starting quarterback for the National Football League. He's just not good enough. Maybe he has an opportunity where he can be a bench player for someone else, a second quarterback, but as a starter for the Giants or for any other team in the National Football League, I don't know. But who knows? We know what Geno Smith was able to do. Can Daniel Jones do something like that? Is the talent there to do that? I don't believe it, but you never know. I didn't believe it with Geno Smith as well. I still relatively don't, to be honest. We'll probably discuss that in tomorrow's show. But it is what it is. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will do a full reaction to CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers. Before the break, we reacted to Daniel Jones being benched from Tommy DeVito. That's the cough strikes again. Let me get some water real quick. Let's get through the show. I got 5 minutes left. We talked about Daniel Jones being benched for Tommy DeVito. We move on to react to CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers. Match day 11 finished. We get match day 12. Technically today, tomorrow really, but technically today, since we are past midnight, let's just use the proper English there. But just to recap what happened in CONMEBOL World Cup match day 11, Venezuela 1-1 win. Venezuela won. Said 1-1 win. 1-1 draw with Brazil. Brazil again, but struggling in CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers. You thought that win over Peru, where they played a really, really good game over Peru, you thought that could have gave Brazil the you thought that game could give Brazil some momentum going forward in CONMEBOL, but the draw they suffered against Peru. The draw they suffered against Venezuela seems like not the case. But yeah, obviously, it's really disappointing, that result for Brazil, because they want to build some momentum. But yeah, we'll see. Obviously, Argentina, they also drew with Venezuela, so Venezuela away could be difficult. And they can, Venezuela does make it difficult. Speaking of Argentina, they lost to Paraguay 2-1, goals from Antonio Sanabria and Omar Alderete in the 19th and 47th minute. We saw an animated Lionel Messi talking to the officials. Argentina just looked a little stagnant, looked a little out of their way in certain periods of this game, and even though they dominated possession, didn't create as many clear-cut out opportunities as you expect from them. And they were deserved losers on the day, I have to say, even though they dominated possession. Chile 2-0 win over Peru in the no, not Chile. Not Chile. Not that one, actually. You had Ecuador beat Bolivia 4-0. Really good win for Ecuador. I told you about Bolivia. They're a different team when they're not playing in that crazy altitude. It's a completely different scenario when you don't have that altitude, and they're a completely different team, because quality-wise, individual players, they're just not at the level of Ecuador. And Ecuador dominant 4-0 win. Good win for them as well for goal differential, and they're moving up. They're now 5th place, which is an automatic spot at next year's World Cup with if they are able to hold their position. And Peru 0-0 draw with Chile, two of the bottom feeding teams in CONMEBOL as well. 0-0 draw. Doesn't do any of them really that well, with how low those two teams are. A point doesn't do squat for any of them, so it's clear those two teams won't be at the World Cup. And then Uruguay taking on Colombia was the game of this weekend. Hard-fought game from Colombia, from both teams, and late goal from Manuel Ugarte. Uruguay needed this win because they haven't had much good results in World Cup qualifiers, and the way that they did it was gritty performance from them. And overall, so impressed with Uruguay getting that late victory with Ugarte. So, and then to discuss the real quick wrap up, tomorrow's game includes or today technically includes some interesting ones. Now, Bolivia, they want to get back into their winning ways. They play this game. They're back at the Municipal Stadium in Alto in Bolivia with that crazy altitude that stadium provides, taking on a Paraguay team. I think Paraguay is going to get suffocated in this one because of that altitude, because of how good Bolivia are at home. They're unbeaten at home in the last few games now, playing in CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers, going up against Paraguay, which is not the strongest of opposition. I expect Bolivia to get that result. Argentina taking on Peru. I expect Argentina to get that result because of what Peru is not, and Argentina is, and they're going to bounce back, in my opinion, from that bad performance against Paraguay. Venezuela, Chile being at home is interesting, but Venezuela is the better opposition. We saw what Venezuela did at the Copa America. I will favor Venezuela in this one, but I think the fact that Chile is home can make this tricky. Colombia taking on Ecuador. I think this is a really, really good matchup between two teams that have high potential. I do think Colombia, just based on what we've seen of them of lately, they are the better team, and they're going to want to bounce back from that loss to Uruguay. Brazil taking on Uruguay. That's the big game now. Look, Brazil now, they've been poor this World Cup qualifying campaign, but if they can get the win over Uruguay, it can set a statement of intent going forward. Playing this game in Brazil at the Fonte Nova Arena, I don't know. I feel like Brazil might, now logically, it's hard to believe in them, what we've seen so far in World Cup qualifiers. But I don't know. I think they have something in them to, playing this game at home, we'll see. Thank you guys, though, for tuning in to the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content updates. So thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit.